It's time to save, New Jersey. New Jersey's Clean Energy Program is your guide to rebates and incentives that can save hundreds, even thousands of dollars for businesses and residents throughout the state by making smarter energy choices. Start today with an energy assessment. We're lighting the way to a clean energy future. Join in at njcleanenergy.com or call 866-NJ-SMART.
So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to Hug a Tree to Measure Carbon Capture. My name is Emily Wilmoth and I'm an environmental educator with New Jersey Audubon. Typically in normal circumstances I'd be going into schools and working with students and teachers on sustainability projects at the school. However, this year things are a little bit different, so I'm currently a naturalist at the Cape May Hawk Lodge, which is super fun. So, a little bit about me. This is Allison.
Hi, I'm Allison Mulch and I'm the project director for school sustainability. So I oversee the Eco Schools USA, which Emily just alluded to, that she does some sustainability lessons, as well as the U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon Schools application process in New Jersey. And we're excited to share with you this lesson that you can take back to your students.
So the activities we're going to do today can totally be adapted to like all age ranges. We will do a little bit of math that's kind of geared toward upper level, middle school through adults, but all this can easily be, adapted for elementary school age kids as well. So I want to start by saying this is not a tree identification class. We're not going to take you around and just like point out each and every species of tree here on the grounds. Instead, we want to leave you with the tools to feel comfortable taking kids or whatever audience you're working with outside and like empowering them to go learn about trees. Okay, so not just like telling people, putting your naturalist hat on and identifying everything for them, but just providing the tools so people feel empowered to do it themselves.
And being able to connect this back with the idea of climate change, thinking about the idea that a car, you drive about an average of 12,000 miles per year on a lease for a mid-sized sedan. That car is creating 11,000 pounds of CO2 per year. Same thing with a flight going from New York to Los Angeles. That's creating 1,400 pounds of CO2 per passenger. So giving your kids the ability to then figure out how much the trees are actually holding inside them and understanding the value of the trees.
Yeah. So we're going to show you that math and the tools you can use to calculate the amount of carbon that an individual tree sequesters. But in order to do that, you do have to figure out what species of tree you're looking at, and you're going to have to take a measurement of the circumference and figure out the diameter. So those are sort of those tools that we're talking about. So just a little bit about like basic tree identification. You have so many options to help you out. First of all, you can go just classic, tree identification field guide or book. This is a super old book. I think it first came out, in 1963. This is still my favorite tree ID book I've ever come across. It's so basic and easy to use. It's essentially a dichotomous key in this little book. Here's another example of a dichotomous key that the wonderful Dorothy Smalling, who's doing the mushroom talk right now, created. So if you're not familiar with dichotomous key, you're basically, you have two choices, right? It's kind of like a choose your adventure. So if you're starting at the top and it says opposite or alternate branches, right? You have two choices. If it's opposite, you go one way. If it's alternate, you go the other. And you continue to kind of pick out of two given choices all the way down to the bottom where you'll identify the species. And we'll talk a little bit more about what opposite and alternate are before we head out. But that's another option for a tool. Now, of course, we have technology that is super helpful in identifying all things in nature. iNaturalist. Has anyone heard of iNaturalist? All right, was anybody in the iNaturalist talk, or is that happening right now? Okay, perfect. So you're super familiar. And you'll know from the talk that there's actually a special iNaturalist project for today. So if you want to use iNaturalist when we send you off in a few moments, go ahead and download it. It's a free app on your phone, a citizen science app. And then you can find the project for today. It's called ANJEE.
ANJEE BioBlitz.
ANJEE BioBlitz, okay? And then you can join the project, and every tree observation that you submit in iNaturalist will go into our ANJEE project, which is really, really cool.
Who needs to download that? Who does not have it on their phone? Just one? Or do you all have it? Everybody? Oh, good. Does anybody have the related app, Seek? S-E-E-K? Just one of you?
I don't have it on my phone.
All right,
I know it, but
if you want to take a second and try to add that one to your phone and try them both out today. 2 different age ranges. You know, Seek is more for your younger kids. Think about Pokemon Go. It's more, it's not going to, their pictures aren't going to be looked at by a scientist and given credit, but it is fun for them to identify as they're walking around, and they do earn badges. So that is Seek by iNaturalist.
So Seek is not citizen science. Right, so you actually have to be a certain age or otherwise have like parental permission to use iNaturalist, because it is a public forum. So if you are working with little kids and you still want them to use the tool, but you're not getting, you know, permission from each individual family member or guardian, then Seek is an awesome way to go. And like Allison said, it's kind of fun. It's a little bit more like a game. You can win like badges and things for your observations. So we have books, we have technology, we have dichotomous keys. If you are going to go one of the classic ways, using the books or the dichotomous key, I just want to give you all a little bit of a reminder of some basic like tree ID terminology, I suppose. So we're lucky right now we still have leaves on the trees. It's a whole lot easier to identify tree species when you've got leaves to work with. So if you're looking at leaves, you probably want to start by identifying if it's a simple leaf or a compound leaf. So this one here is simple. There's just the petiole here with an individual leaf on it. And this one is compound. The petiole or the base of the leaf is here, and there's multiple leaflets making up one individual leaf. So simple versus compound. Then you want to look at the shape of the leaf, right? It's incredible, the diversity of leaf shapes out there. So just taking note of the shape as well as the margin. So are the edges of the leaves lobed? Are they serrated? Are they smooth? There's lots of different options. And then finally the venation of the leaf, so the pattern of the veins, the skeleton of the leaf. Is it branching out? Are they parallel? Right? So taking notes of those things, because that's what the dichotomous key is going to ask you about, are those variations within the leaves. The last other really important piece is the opposite or alternate branching. So that's looking at how the branches and the leaves off of the branches are arranged. So if they're opposite, that's like how these leaflets are right here. They're kind of in line with one another, whereas if they're alternate, they would be every other one on a different side. Right, so when I'm with kids, to get a move in, I have them do opposite, both arms out, alternate, arm and leg, opposite, alternate, opposite. So those are just some refreshers about leaf ID. Now what if it was winter time and we didn't have any leaves on the trees? What other things could you look for as clues to help identify a tree? Bark, absolutely. Some trees have really distinctive bark. That can be super helpful. What else? Terminal bud. Buds, yeah. Great. Anything else? Sorry? The roots. The roots? Okay, sure, yeah. Seeds, yeah, or any fruit that a tree might produce, absolutely. Often they're specific to a certain group of trees. shape of the tree? Shape of the tree, yeah. Is it growing tall and thin, or is it, you know, short and round? Awesome. Those are all great clues to keep in mind. So that's another observation that'll come up, and you'll need to know when you're using these tools. Anything else? Oh, so we're going to give you a sheet to take with you, and we're going to have you just explore a little bit, find a tree, use whatever tool you decide to. The iNaturalist project, you can borrow a book, dichotomous key, and just work on identifying that tree. That's kind of the first step. On the sheet, you're going to have a space to make any notes, any sketches. If you want to do a leaf rubbing, you can take a crayon with you. So you'll make your sketches and observations and do your best to identify the tree. If you want confirmation, you can come find one of us. We can see if we know what it is and help you confirm. And then I'm going to show you how to do the measurements before we set you loose as well.
Yeah, and if you're doing this with kids, I wouldn't even talk about technology first. Take them out the old-fashioned way. Let them do the observation. Let them draw the leaf. Let them rub the leaf. Let them come up with their own, use their own words to describe the tree, the bark. You know, that's going to help them when they then go in and they start to use the other tools to identify.
And that's what's great about this. You know, just going into schools and working with teachers who maybe don't do a lot of outdoor or environmental education, they can sometimes feel really like intimidated. Like, I don't know how to identify trees, you know, so I can't do this. But you 100% can, right? Because you have these tools. And that's part of the learning experience, is the kids figuring it out themselves.
Yeah, so I think we should take a walk. The only thing you really need, well, okay, we're going to, each one of these, take a crayon, and then if you want to take a book and a measuring tape, I suggest you do this in pairs if you're comfortable. And because you're going to do the whole process for one tree. Identify it, take the measurements, calculate the amount of carbon that's being sequestered. The math in here is higher level, but you don't have to do the math. There's also it's called Tree Benefits Calculator. Okay, so that's the easier way. Take the kids right to that calculator, and they're going to get additional information about the value of that tree in terms of the amount of water it absorbs, the amount of heat it offsets, the dollar value of having a tree that size. So there's a lot of additional information they're going to receive from that.
Magic is the right time frame and the right
location for rubbing.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely take a tape measure, a writing utensil, a packet, and any other tools that you would like.
Yes, take the books.
Yes, the classic.
Is this the packet?
Yes. We have extra books, so the next group will have totally clean, unused, unshared materials.
Oh, good.
All right.
We're going to take the measurement here shortly, and just because you brought that up now, I'll go over that. So the measurement we're taking is circumference at breast height, because we're figuring out diameter at breast height, and it's breast height because it matters, right? If I was measuring the tree up here, it would actually be two different trees.
Sure.
But if I'm measuring it down here, then it's just one large tree. That's why we always take it at the same height. Just extend your arm straight out in front of you. It's not exact, right? We're all different heights, but it's at least close. So this one, I think we could get away with measuring it as one, especially since I'm on like a little hill at the base of the tree here. We could probably call it just one big tree. But yeah. But first, should we do identification stuff?
We could.
Yeah. So yeah.
Our tools. You all have a dichotomous key in the back up the top.
Tree has needles, or tree has broad leaves.
All right, easy one, right? What do you think? Broad leaves.
So we're on deciduous.
Yes.
Is it opposite or alternate branching?
Okay, so take a look at how the leaves are growing off of this little twig. Are they directly across from each other, or are they every other one on a different side? Every other one, I would say.
They're alternate.
Yeah, it's alternate, yeah. So it's pretty close, but yeah, you see they're not growing straight out from one another.
Sure.
It's alternating.
Are there any other?
Well, hickory's a compound leaf, right? Versus so
I see.
you can use these buds here to show you that that is the base of an individual leaf. So if I pull this off, is this a simple leaf or a compound?
Yeah.
Simple. Absolutely. Yep.
Sure. Leaves not lobed or leaves lobed?
Yeah, so how there's kind of dips.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
These are lobes. Yep. Perfect. This is like, he loves me. He loves me. On the last leaf, we'll be at our identification. What's next? Good. So yeah, this, I'm not going to say what kind of tree it is. I bet a lot of you know, but there are species of this type of tree, right, that would have rounded edges, but this one you can see the tips are pointy. And then we're looking at, what are we looking at? If it's hairy or not.
Does not feel hairy to me.
And then we're looking at color, right?
Yes, dull green, bright green and shiny with dark green and leathery. So I would say that's dull green.
I agree.
So our
And it's
tree
not hairy, right? And would you say these go about halfway in? Like look at this one here.
Halfway, yeah.
Into the main vein.
Yeah.
So what would that give us?
Give us red oak.
Yay! Woohoo! Nice job. So
That's funny. It's a red oak. It's whenever my identification of oak is either going to be a black oak or it's going to be a white oak. You know?
I think red and white can be the most broad categories, and black is actually kind of like a variation of a red oak.
Okay.
Because it's got the pointed tips like a red does.
Yeah.
But for that, the dips would be even more extreme. It's really skinny
in a black oak,
on the center part. Yeah. And then a pin oak is even more than a black.
It's even really deeper.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Good. So that's our identification.
Okay.
If we didn't have the leaves here today, right, we would have a major clue in these acorns, right? Only oak trees are going to make acorns, so that narrows us down significantly.
It agrees.
Our technology agrees. All right. Good job, everybody.
So I want to talk a second for iNaturalist since you have that up. When you're using the I know that the Watershed Ambassadors were just, a couple of you were in that workshop. You were not in that last workshop for the iNaturalist, correct? So here's a couple tips for using that app. First of all, take several pictures. So you want to take one standing back at the whole tree, take one of the leaves, take one of the acorns, one of the bark. You can have 4 pictures. And the more pictures you have and the better the clarity of those pictures, so a good distance, with your camera, the better you're going to get with identification using the iNaturalist.
I took a poor picture of a tree over here and it identified it incorrectly. And I was like, I don't think that's what this tree is. I was pretty sure that it was a tupelo. And then I retook a better picture where like the branching was more clear. I could see more leaves and they hadn't started changing color yet. They were still greener, and then that popped up the right identification. So if you're unsure, take multiple pictures, try again.
Yeah. And it does.
So you can get more than 2 pictures in there.
You can have 4.
Oh,
it lets you upload 4. And it does. You can take them. You can take the pictures first, just with your regular phone, or do it right in the app. I found when I take in the app, it still puts them in my picture gallery on my phone, so it doesn't matter either way.
All 4 wind up in it?
Yeah, all 4 went into the identification. So you can take more pictures. But when you use the app, it's still going to give you choices. So you're still going to have to have those observations because you can do either way. You can type on this key and answer the questions up front, or you can look and they're going to show you white oak, red oak, pin oak, and you're going to have to really figure out which one. It doesn't just normally, like I did this tree an hour before our workshop and it gave me 10 options for the type of oak you put it in.
For this tree?
Sometimes though, what I like about it is that if you're unsure, you can like back up and go to a more general description, like oaks.
Yes.
And you can click on that, and then if somebody you know, confirms your observation, they might suggest a specific type of oak if you're unsure. So I've done that a lot with my observations just because I can't be 100% sure what
Absolutely.
I'm
You
doing.
see some strange mushroom out there and you have no idea.
Yep.
Dorothy will identify it for you.
Yeah.
The Seek tool, so if you don't have that, I would put that on your phone as well, especially if you have the younger kids, because that's kind of like you're walking around, you don't take a picture, it's like live video action, and everything it hits, it's given it a name. Human, cat. I mean, it was getting my dog was a cat, but you know, so it's not as good as iNaturalist. So we're using the app on our phone, but you as a teacher have a dashboard on your computer so that you can use it for data with your classes. There's a lot of great information. Emily taught us how to use all the different types of data, so you can go further with this activity.
Great. So that's the first part, is figuring out what species of tree you have, and then it's taking the measurement.
Yeah, so who wants to take our measurement?
There's a really good dichotomous key in the Common Trees of New Jersey book that has the full page picture for kids. I found that to be really good, especially if you can, like, if you're working in a known area, you can kind of pre-screen some of the trees that they might identify American beech as something that's less common, but it has a pretty decent, similar to this, but only focused on New Jersey species.
Is that the white rectangular one?
Yeah, the one that's spiral bound,
That's
you know, and you can
yeah.
photocopy it, and you know, I think it's
Absolutely.
DEP that puts that out, maybe, or used to be.
And then just hold in place and count around 20 times. 5 feet. Where does that stop? And then hold the spot, and I'll hold this spot. Yep. And then have somebody else.
Here, I can hold this side.
Okay.
Perfect.
5 feet plus 74 inches.
16, 17.
Yeah.
134 inches.
134 inches. And the diameter, so half that.
By pi equals diameter.
Okay.
To make it easy from the direction we're approaching it from, right?
That have been found here in New Jersey, but there are records, very records in the New York County Park. They no longer exist.
134?
134 inches, yeah.
Should we do it over again? Like in centimeters?
No, we can just stick with.
Stick with the inch.
Yeah, I think so.
The biomass comes out in kilograms.
But our westerly wind doesn't move that air to the east. And
Oh, wait a minute. The conversion is down at the bottom there.
It's fine.
Otherwise, if you want to do centimeters, it's 347.
You can totally just go
To the calculator.
Tree benefits calculator. And that is back on this number 4. It has and I actually went to iTree to get the tree benefits calculator. It takes you right there. So in inches.
191.
Like 100, so 45 is the biggest hill on the road. Okay.
And so then we can pretty much double it, whatever we get, right? Because that would be 90.
Provides overall benefits of $366. Okay, and then go to the tab that's CO2.
So this tree's worth 366. I think it's worth so much.
65 inch with an over a tree. Reduce atmospheric carbon by 655. And we're gonna. You said we need to almost double that because probably more than double because 45 inches is like. So one flight.
So that would be this, just this half of the tree.
Yeah. That's like a flight. A flight. Flight to Los Angeles. This tree can absorb that. That's all it can absorb. That's all it can keep. Right? You cut it down. The wood that you turn into furniture still has the CO2 in it, but the leaves do not. Roots do not, and that's throughout the entire tree. This is a great tool. Yeah. Great thing to drill home to the kids is even though you replace a tree, when you measure, how many years does it take to get to be this big? So you really need it to be this big to offset. You can't just go replacing the sapling and think that you've made up the difference. And the same thing, that tool also has tabs in there, and I'm talking about the tree benefits calculator, which is mentioned here on number 4. Can you tell us the water that it absorbs in? Are you still in that tool?
Yes. Stormwater.
Yep.
Stormwater tab. Wow. 23,494. So probably closer to 50,000
gallons of water. Is that what that's representing?
Just this year. 50,000. Yeah, that's tremendous. That's amazing.
If that's all you use with your students, that's fine. They wanted you to see the math at high school kids. All these materials, I can email you so you can have all these. Yeah, I was hoping you guys would go try one on your own.
And my classes are considered biology, so that compare these two tiny pieces. Okay. We can each do one and compare. How about so it's a 3-inch circumference. That's a 1-inch diameter.
Diameter. Aww.
Yeah, so if it's 3, yeah, because divided by pi, then that's about, 1 inch.
Okay,
Is yours even skinnier?
yeah, mine's 6.5 centimeters. Oh, it's about the same. Ish. 2 centimeters. I'm going to try to do the actual calculation.
Yeah, I have one here of just the leaves, but they're really sizable leaves.
So, iNaturalist, were you able, I guess you weren't able to get the whole, right, okay.
Because there's a lot of just brush and stuff in the way too.
Okay.
To get a really clear picture.
And that's, and with this activity too, this is a tough location because all the trees are kind of back. Ideally you'd be able to walk right up to it so that you can take the measurement and everything.
Yeah, so almost just the trees in this area that are around grass are the better ones if you're into with your students.
About 1 inch diameter, tiny little saplings, and huge difference. So the carbon for me was 7 pounds a year.
It's 34 for the hickory.
What are the differences between those two trees that one would store more than the other? Who knows? What's it look like, the differences? I mean, I know we just have the 1 inch, but is there other things, surface area, leaves, something like that could be?
Hickory has compound. And so, that's something that, we were talking about. Even when there aren't leaves on trees, what's the shape? Some trees just have, looking back at that maple there, that sugar maple, for instance, look how many leaves are on that tree. They're really packed in there. So by identifying the species, the calculations sort of take that into account. So if you're unsure of a species, take notes, draw pictures, grab a sample if you can, and then utilize your wide range of tools later on. Don't get hung up on, it's okay if you don't know how to identify a certain tree when you're out with kids. You collect all the information you need and you figure it out together later. You have the resources, so you did the right things.
Cool. I was going to say, I think it would benefit to start with to get your kids used to the key, because it's hard even for us, I think sometimes, is to stick with your basic easy trees where it's boom, 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 and you're at what it, you know, just at least to start, and then maybe go off and have them try some more, you know, crazy trees that we're not really sure about, or invasive species or whatever.
Well, at their schools, you probably have less.
It's true,
here,
There's
right?
not much diversity.
If you have urban areas, I mean, their street trees are probably going to be the same because they were likely installed. And in their yards, I mean, I don't know. But here's a lot of opportunity to do this, whether the kids are at home or in school. One of the things we wanted to bring up is Eco Schools is a free program. It's an award program for your kids. There's an at-home version right now, as well as if you're in the school, you can do that, but that's where the kids do the audit and collect information. There's a couple pathways that would incorporate this activity, or elements of it. So learning everything about forests would do the whole activity with some additional things like collecting water samples and soil samples. And the idea is that the kids are learning how good the quality of the forest is, and then looking to do an action like add trees to their home or their schoolyard or something like that. But there's other pathways as well. Biodiversity, the whole idea is to identify the trees and just increase the biodiversity, and that can happen. They can attract birds, they can, you know, add plants, whatever they want to do. So you can sign up for that program if you want online free, and do these projects with your kids. And if you're doing the at-home version, the kids earn certificates, and if you're doing this in-school version, that's a whole school award. It's a whole award program, and it keeps going deeper. So more you want to add describing that?
Yeah, so the leaf pathway, the learning everything about forest pathway is just super cool. You don't need an actual forest. Like, you can just use a small patch of trees and still accomplish the pathway. But it's super fun. You get to, you know, calculate the value of the trees. You're also doing like wildlife surveys and kind of making those broader connections about like, why is tree diversity important? You know, oak trees support different wildlife compared to, you know, maple trees, right? And so you're sort of taking these big ecological concepts. You don't have to have a forest, so you don't get like put off by that. Yeah, even just like a small little
trees across the street. You got 5, okay, you can do this pathway. So it all works. And with the tools with the iNaturalist, that can help you through so many more once the kids learn that. And you can set it up just for your classroom, or you can set up for a town, but you have the ability to set up a BioBlitz, like the one that's set up today. I heard something about a requirement that you have to do 50 of your own identifications before they let you
confirmed.
Before they let you set up a BioBlitz. That's pretty. You can probably do that in a week or two, just walking around. I mean, and putting everything in there, and then waiting for them to get confirmed takes a couple days. You know, if you do them all today, you might see. You know, if you did 50 today, you might see 10 confirmed by tomorrow, but by the end of the week, they should all be confirmed or not. And then